Okay, we're good to go. Well, thank you so much, Kelly. Glad to be re-invited back. I mean, I think that's a good sign. So this is my second time. Hopefully, for those of you that were at the first one, there'll be some nuggets that you'll get from this presentation. I'm Josh Utterback in the Economic Development Department. Going to be giving you an overview of kind of how our department works, some of the projects that we're working on, some things that are important to us, and hopefully you'll learn a few things that you can incorporate into your business. I've got my friend and colleague Ben Moriarty here from Long Range Planning. He's going to be coming on next to give that perspective of planning and kind of development services and a lot more about projects that are ongoing. Feel free to throw up a hand if you've got questions throughout, but there will be a chance at the end too that you can ask to both of us. Very quick background on me. I'm an Arizona native, so I've been here for over 40 years, and I did get away for a little bit, went to Wheaton College outside Chicago, spent 4 years there, loved it, but it was too cold for me, so I came right on back. I worked in real estate development for more than 10 years in the private sector before navigating to public sector and economic development in 2014. I was with Mesa, City of Mesa for 2.5 years, and now I've been with the City of Scottsdale for the past 6 years. All right, so some visuals to get us started. It's a little bit hard to tell, but you can kind of tell from the roads here. This is the City of Scottsdale map. It's very north-south, 184 square miles, 31 miles north-south. A couple things to point out. SRP MIC, Southern European American Indian Community to the southeast, has a Scottsdale mailing address, but is not City of Scottsdale proper. The same with Kierland and much of Phoenix west of the Scottsdale Road in North Scottsdale. But we've got 3 business districts in Scottsdale, which is definitely a differentiator. Most communities just have one. That makes us a large net importer of jobs. So of our 250,000 residents, about 130,000 of those residents are in the workforce, so working or working age. But on any given day, we've got 210,000 people that come into Scottsdale to work. So I would be one of those that live in Phoenix, coming to Scottsdale and work. And the other cool thing that we've got with those 3 business districts, so it's the Air Park area, which is actually the largest one around the Scottsdale Airport. This would be considered the Air Park area as well. Downtown or Old Town Scottsdale is one, and then the McDowell corridor is the 3rd business district. Skysong is kind of the center of that. All right, so why Scottsdale? These are kind of 6 facts that we like to brag about and even talk to potential businesses about that are considering Scottsdale. What sets us apart? Wallet Hub just ranked us #1 in the city, in the nation for jobs. Some of those reasons were that we have a large amount of internship possibilities. We've got job growth in the nation that's the highest at 12% year over year, and ranking top 5 in the country for median annual income. McDowell Sonoran Preserve is 1/3 of Scottsdale. It's never going to be developed, so we've got great opportunities for recreation and outdoor use that makes our quality of life awesome. Lots of opportunities in housing outside of just single-family residential, more multifamily coming in just to meet the demand. Scottsdale's got about 3% of Arizona's population, but 20% of Arizona's corporate headquarters are in Scottsdale. So a lot of people, a lot of kind of larger and growing companies want to make Scottsdale home. And we have a very educated community. So the national average is about 39% for bachelor's degree or higher, and Scottsdale has 60%. So it's very appealing to a lot of employers. And I already talked about those 130,000 residents that are in the workforce and 210,000 that are working in Scottsdale every day. Okay, sometimes it's easier to learn about economic development or anything for that matter by just watching a little informational video. So this is a little kind of cartoon-like video, and hopefully you can gather something from this.
As one of Arizona's 10 largest cities, Scottsdale is defined by its unique blend lifestyles. Scenic southwest neighborhoods linked to a bustling urban core, world-class arts, and culture atop a foundation of public safety and city services that are regularly ranked as among the best in the nation. The people who call Scottsdale home enjoy a vibrant community, quality of life second to none, and a lower cost of living compared to most. So, how does a remarkable city like Scottsdale continue to grow while providing such a high standard of service to citizens and visitors alike? Scottsdale has 3 primary funding sources: sales tax, property tax, and state shared revenues. These funding sources pay for city services like police, fire, parks, infrastructure, transportation, the arts, and the McDowell Sonoran Preserve, just to name a few. Cities all over the globe compete to bring companies to their community. Economic development is critical to preserving and growing Scottsdale's economy. Economic development is made up of two sectors. Business retention works closely with existing Scottsdale businesses to make sure they have everything they need to thrive in the community, like helping them attract skilled workers or finding a larger space to fit their needs. Economic development also leads business attraction efforts. They meet with companies all around the globe to discuss how their business can grow and succeed if they relocate to Scottsdale. When businesses locate here, they pay taxes, they produce jobs, and in turn, hire community members, which brings dollars to our city. Attracting businesses attracts tax dollars. New revenue for the city arrives with those businesses as they pay taxes each year in the form of property taxes through commercial leasing or ownership of the properties. Businesses that build new offices also pay building permit and impact fees. And since businesses need employees to operate, those employees help Scottsdale through sales tax when they shop, eat out, or enjoy the many entertainment venues. Approximately 35% of Scottsdale's businesses have employees that also live in Scottsdale, which means they also contribute to growth through property taxes or rental fees. Robust and effective economic development is critical to keeping Scottsdale's economy strong and diverse. Attracting new businesses to relocate to Scottsdale while encouraging existing companies to expand and grow ensures Scottsdale will continue to set the standard in what a successful and prosperous city should be. Choose prosperity, choose the extraordinary, choose Scottsdale.
Alright, so somewhat basic, but hopefully informative. This is a look at our 5 primary and target industries that were identified in our 5-year economic development strategic plan in 2021. As you'll notice from here, corporate headquarters doesn't necessarily fit into a primary industry, but we were encouraged to include that, one, for our strategic advantage that we already have with a strong presence of that, but also to continue to recruit in that area. The other ones include IT services and software, finance and insurance companies, healthcare, and logistics management. The logistics management isn't necessarily the warehouse and manufacturing part of that, but it's more the back office end of that. And then tourism. We don't do a ton on the tourism side, economic development department, but we do have a tourism department, and we work closely with Experience Scottsdale, which is our external marketing arm for tourism as well. Here's a look at the top 10 employers in the city of Scottsdale. Some of these are on the private side, some public sector you'll see, but the great thing about this is that they all fit into the primary industries for the most part that we just saw on the last slide. So we've got Honor Health, CVS Health, and Mayo Clinic on the healthcare side, Vanguard Nationwide on finance and insurance, General Dynamics and Axon on the technology side, and we've got even tourism with Fairmont, Scottsdale Princess. Lots of other hotels are just below this threshold too, and then a great education partner in SUSD and City of Scottsdale on the public sector side. Here's a snapshot of some of the recent locates and pipelines. You might recognize some of these logos, others maybe not. Many of these are kind of startup companies. These are companies that have come to Scottsdale or expanded into Scottsdale in the past about year. One kind of cool trend that we're seeing is more companies related to semiconductor industry. So TSMC coming to Phoenix. A few years ago thought that's great. I don't know how much benefit we'll see in Scottsdale, but we are seeing benefit. BHS and Brilliant are 2 companies that have located strategically at SkySong, because it's kind of halfway between Intel and where the TSMC plant is coming, and we're hopeful we'll see more of that in the years to come. All right, I'm going to touch a little bit on these new and upcoming developments. Ben's going to get into them a bit more, but these are just some of the office ones which our department works mostly with, because we're trying to recruit those businesses from our primary industries into these offices. But Axis Raintree, which is just down the road from you guys, this landed and arrived during COVID pretty much, but 175,000 square foot building. They have a great location right at 87th Street there. It's a mixed use project. With the apartments next door to it. Scottsdale Entrada, this is kind of the gateway into Scottsdale and South Scottsdale. It's at the northeast corner of 64th Street in McDowell. That is actually an opportunity zone, so they took advantage of that. tax benefit and built out that whole development. The multifamily is still getting completed, coffee shops up and running, and 250,000 square foot office building there. Only 3 stories, so it's very large floor plates of over 80,000 square feet in South Scottsdale there. Cabazon, I'm sure all of you have driven by this on the 101 as you take the curve, Loop 101 in Hayden. When that is all said and done, all built out, 1.8 million square feet of office is going to be in place and at 5 stories. Some great companies already located there on the headquarters side. So we've got Nationwide, obviously, the corporate headquarters for Major League Baseball Player Association is out of that Cabazon already, RS Foods, and then Hilton Hotel has a portion of their corporate headquarters there as well. Mac Innovation Group, I'll let Ben talk more about that, but this is one that was purchased through state land, and over 1 million square feet of light industrial is planned at that. A little bit more on that later. The park this is the former Cracker Jack's location. So this is off of Scottsdale Road on the east side. 250,000 square feet of office is planned for that. Includes a 2-acre park. That's I think the coolest element of it, really opening up to the community. I think Ben's going to speak on that a little bit more too. And then lastly here we've got Skysong Building 6. This is a rendering of the plan. 340,000 square feet has been approved. Candidly, it'll likely end up being less than that. This was kind of pre-COVID. We're kind of re-evaluating it, and ASU, who's the owner, we own the underlying land. The city of Scottsdale does, but ASU is the developer and owner. They're very conservative on wanting to build only once they have 60% pre-leased, and so getting that large of a space pre-leased in these economic times is challenging, with companies looking for smaller and smaller floor plates. All right, so some stats for you guys. This commercial leasing trends. This is something that's important to our economic development department, and that we track regularly. This shows year over year from April on a quarterly basis. We actually publish these as well. But some things to note that in comparing us to Greater Phoenix, so that kind of top right chart there, you'll notice that our vacancy rate is much less in industrial and retail, despite having higher asking rates. Industrial comparison is 21 bucks a square foot versus 13, and then retail 33 versus 24. And even with those differences, we're having lower vacancy rates. Office, we're similar vacancy and a little bit higher asking rent. A lot of that comes down to supply and demand, especially on the industrial side. We just don't have a lot of supply. And so when it's available, usually gets snatched up quickly. Just a kind of a note for prospects and leads that we're getting for businesses to locate here. 5 years or more ago, we used to get about 80% of our leads from Arizona Commerce Authority and the Greater Phoenix Economic Council would be for office projects and office tenants, and 20% of them would be industrial or manufacturing. They send these out to all 22 communities part of Greater Phoenix Economic Council, and now it's really shifted since COVID to the other way around. So about 80% of the leads we're receiving are manufacturing or light industrial, and 20% of them are office. Some other trends too. Smaller office floor plates are more common. A company that might have been looking for 50,000 square foot before is now kind of looking for the 20 or 30,000 square foot. Some of that has to do with hybrid work, which seems to be here to stay. A lot of the companies that I meet with on the business retention side are, offering 1, 2, or even 3 days a week to work from home, and that seems to be a lot of the new standard for many of the new employees. All right, a couple more slides here. This is an important one for us as well. This is what we call our corporate corridor. It's the 101 as you kind of take the turn there. And what I like to say too is if you turn on Google Earth or Google Maps and just look at it aerially, just kind of from a higher vantage point, you'll notice that most everything is built out in Scottsdale, and everything's kind of filled in with the exception of a few kind of patches of land. There's a bunch down here in the southeast corner, and that is on the SRP MIC side, because that's not built out. They don't have residential for anyone that's non-tribal. But the area within Scottsdale that is still available is state land. And so this is what we consider our corporate corridor, kind of the last area for ground up development. Was 800 acres, it's down to 500 acres now, and we're hopeful that's going to get kind of bought up in the next about 5 years, I'd say. There is a process to it. It can take anywhere from 6 months to over a year to go through that. It has to be appraised, and the starting bid is always at the appraised value. And if there's just one bidder, sometimes they can get it for the appraised value. And in certain cases, there'll be multiple bidders and they'll bid the price up. That happened for what the Mac Real Estate Group purchased at the northeast corner of Bell and the 101. Went for over $1 million an acre, $125 million for that 124 acre piece. Multiple bidders on that, and that's also happened in driving up the price of the piece at the northeast corner of Hayden and the 101, which Honor Health ended up outbidding Banner Health. And so there's a little bit of a rivalry there. Banner Health ended up purchasing another piece of property that was previously bought up from state land, and it's kind of yet to be determined what is going to happen for both of those pieces, but we're curious to see as well. The only other thing to say about this is, yeah, it is a process to get purchased up and built out. They usually incorporate discussions with our department, economic development, as well as planning beforehand. There is underlying zoning for it, and I think Ben's going to be able to touch on that a little bit later. One more video for you guys. This is more kind of like a sizzle reel for why choosing Scottsdale. These are some companies that we have interacted with from our department, and hope you like the video and take a couple questions before Ben starts.
Scottsdale has seen a tremendous amount of growth, and it's because the secret's out. We have more than doubled over the last couple of years, and we were certified as a great place to work.
Being located in Scottsdale and being able to offer a work, life, play environment for our employees has been a major advantage.
When they ask me, where is my office, and I say Scottsdale, Arizona, they realize like we are real and legit, and we're in the heart and soul of a really, really cool place. We sit right along the 101 freeway, which this little space has become known as the tech corridor. And that's a huge benefit when you are, a startup and you want to go down and talk to someone else and get some advice.
The biggest benefits of being located in Scottsdale has by far been recruiting and culture for us.
Since we opened our headquarters office here in Scottsdale, LifeStance has experienced transformative growth, now providing care to patients in more than 600 locations across the country. One of the biggest benefits of being in Scottsdale is that Scottsdale itself is a benefits package. We've always used it as a tool to attract people who want the lifestyle that Scottsdale can afford them, and the city's great for that. Scottsdale just has that name recognition. There's a great lifestyle and tons of social activities no matter what your interests are.
We got spring training, the Waste Management Open, the Super Bowl, Barrett-Jackson, all the shopping that's around, and great nightlife.
And with more than 330 days of sunshine, get outside. Scottsdale's beautiful. Everyone cares here about making sure we are the best of the best. There's such pride taken in excellence, growth, innovation. This place sparkles. So if you want your business to sparkle,
choose Scottsdale.
Choose Scottsdale. All day, every day.
Fun for you guys. Last slide before the end here, though. If you do want to kind of keep in touch with economic development and keep in the loop as far as what's going on from our standpoint, from projects and events, we send out an e-newsletter just once a month. ChooseScottsdale.com is the easiest way to sign up for that. There's a QR code down there as well. We do have social media handles too, so you can track what we're doing from Twitter or LinkedIn or wherever as well. But yeah, we see you guys as advocates and economic developers as well, because a lot of times you're kind of the first view into what Scottsdale is all about to people moving here. So we appreciate realtors and what you guys are doing here. Happy to take some questions maybe before Ben jumps up here, but thanks for having me. Anyone have any questions? Nothing yet. All right, quiet room. Well, Ben is ready to go, and I'm sure there'll be an opportunity at the end too if there's questions for both of us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, good job, Josh. You did so well. That's why they're
Answer them all.
Yeah, right. Answered them before they were asked. Just for my and Josh's understanding, are most of you in residential real estate? I see some nods. Commercial. Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. Because a lot of that, what you heard is, pursuing commercial tenants and whatnot. So I'm Ben Moriarty with Long Range Planning. I've been with the city for 16 years now, and I did spend all of it in Long Range Planning. I had a stint in inspections and went through current planning and spent some time in economic development, so I at least understood all the acronyms maybe Josh shared. And then I went into tourism and events, and I was the downtown specialist, so I got to go meet a lot of the retail folks down in Old Town, but also work with some of the special events that came through Old Town, and that was pretty fun. But it is a big job because it's a big Old Town. And then I moved back into current planning, and now I'm with Long Range. I've been with Long Range Planning for probably about 2-3 years now. And within planning development side of the house, we have Long Range Planning that's primarily policy. So I'll discuss some of those policy documents. We have current planning that's mostly regulatory, like the rules you need to follow for certain properties. Development services, that's where you go to buy your permit. Records, plan review, stormwater management, inspection services, code enforcement when people don't follow the rules. Environmental initiatives, they're just getting their sustainability plan approved. I think it's a 5-year plan. That's a big step for Scottsdale. Historic preservation, I do a lot of that with my regular workflow. And then we obviously have support in the technology side of the house. For the standard process that someone would need to go through when they buy a piece of dirt and they want to build a commercial building or even change the zone to something different, these are the steps they'd walk through. And the projects that I'm going to share have already been through public hearings. So none of these are speculative, but one of the questions I always get is, when are they going to build it? Well, that's kind of up to them once they get through our process. You probably have a better ear to the ground on when things are happening, just because there's other facets like financing and partnerships that you make, leasing agreements, that sort of thing. But just walking through it quickly, we do have a pre-application process. You don't need to be the owner to submit a pre-app and have a conversation with the city. Say, hey, I'm really interested in doing this thing at this place. And then we would gather the various trades that might have input for that project. So planning, engineering, economic development sometimes. There's historic preservation if it's a building that might have significance. We all get on a Teams call with the applicant. The applicant tells us what they want to do, and we give some feedback, but then we give them what the process might look like for them to get to their approval. So that's for $100 fee. That is a great service because you're getting like $500 of staff time, and that's just a rough number, but you're getting that much intelligence on a project before you even have to spend money on maybe even purchasing the property. But for like a zoning project, if someone wants to do an apartment building on a commercial site, you would start with some of your open houses. You would then submit it to the city as a case. We review it to make sure it meets our goals, policies, zoning ordinance, and I'll go through some of that as well. It go to public hearings. We don't do anything in a vacuum. It would go to a public hearing. The neighbors, any interested citizen could come speak or hear about it. And then once it's approved at hearings, it goes into plan review. That's where we're looking at those finite details to make sure they're meeting all the rules. They could purchase their permit, then they could go build it. And we just make sure they're building what was approved. So that's inspections. Once it's finalized and someone calls and says, hey, they removed all the trees, that's where we might have to call code enforcement, or they could call code enforcement and have code enforcement take a look. So that's just a simplified view of what the process might look like. Within planning and development, we often interface with these boards and commissions. City Council. Planning Commission is a recommending body to City Council. The Development Review Board is typically when you have the entitlements on the property, and now you're talking the actual design of the building and the site plan. The Board of Adjustment, that's for variances. They're quasi-judicial, so they're looking at strict criteria because every variance is a deviation from the rules, so we have to keep track of all that. The Building Advisory Board of Appeals, they review building code. So I think they just approved the 2021 International Building Code for folks that are building new homes, new commercial buildings. They have to follow that. Neighborhood Advisory Commission, Environmental Advisory Commission, and the Historic Preservation Commission. Like I mentioned, I interface with them frequently. So starting from the 30,000 foot level, we have our general plan. This is what the general plan looks like in living color, but it's online. I would recommend going online to our website, scottsdaleaz.gov. There's a obnoxiously large search bar right in the middle and keyword search for things that you're looking for. We have so much information online. Sometimes I feel like we need a liaison just to help people like search the correct word. But general plan will pop up, the general plan, and you could get the full document in PDF, and you could search it, for certain keywords. But this is a state mandate that we have a approved general plan every 10 years. We just got ours approved in 2021. That was a big lift from the long range department, but also the community. There was a lot of community activity influencing it. City council had multiple meetings on it to get down to every last word with some of our values, vision, some of the community-wide goals and policies, and that helps steer the city. So if a zoning case is coming forward, we say, how is this zoning change still implementing our general plan? So the applicant would list what goals and policies they feel that they're meeting, and we would review that to make sure they are in fact meeting our general plan. What the general plan is not, it's not the zoning ordinance, it's not the budget. That's a whole different process that happens on the annual basis, and it's not just the land use map. And jumping to that, this is our land use map. It's in our general plan, but there's much more around it. I just want to highlight some things for you. I'm glad that it's in a matrix over here because it's kind of hard to depict the colors. But the 3 central business districts that Josh mentioned, we have our McDowell corridor, we have our Old Town area, and our Greater Air Park area. Those 3 are mixed use districts, but if you notice, that makes up very little of the greater Scottsdale area. For you residential realtors, Scottsdale is mostly residential, and gosh, north is just about all residential, and if someone wants to propose a gas station, we get a lot of comments. Also, a big thing to highlight is the open space. The McDowell Mountain Preserve, but also the open space that we find throughout the city. That is a huge number, 37%. And that is a huge selling point for a lot of folks that want to live or do business in Scottsdale, because most of the time, the climate is perfect to get outside. There's just those couple months in the summer where we all question our sanity. Okay, I think that's probably good on this page. Going from the 30,000 foot view down to like maybe 10,000 foot view, we know that different areas of Scottsdale have different characters to them. So we have character area plans. One in particular that just got revamped in this year is the Old Town Scottsdale Character Area Plan. So we're with these plans saying what we anticipate to happen in these areas. For instance, along the Shea corridor, we might anticipate more commercial development around, around Shea Boulevard itself and some of the arterial intersections. But then if there's residential developments along Shea, we expect there to be a setback because that's kind of how it was developed. So that it gets into a little more of the character of the area, and we want to preserve those characters of those areas, particularly in the ones that have already been approved. Council in the past has said we want to do character area plans for these different areas as well because we feel like those are important. The areas that don't have a plan yet are predominantly governed by large HOAs. So the city doesn't really need to influence those areas to remain the same as much as the HOA already is. Like Desert Mountain already does a great job of managing Desert Mountain. So the city doesn't need to say, keep doing what you're doing if they're already doing it.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah, please.
The Shea corridor,
Yeah.
the building on 90th Street behind where Chompy's is and all that, park underneath and all that, whatever happened with that?
Well, it's still there. I don't have I don't have a slide on it, but what he's referring to is there is a proposal for a large apartment complex on that site, and I think it's been through our system twice, and I think they've submitted for a third time proposing something new at that site, similar to apartment complex.
Jimmy
and
Briggs'
mixed use.
plan, right?
What's that?
Jimmy Briggs' plan?
I believe he's involved with that, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, I don't have that on a slide because it hasn't been approved, but I do believe they're back in,
Third time now?
yeah, for the city to review it and take it through the process.
And it's a traffic thing, right, that they're concerned about?
That's a good question. All the disciplines get to review it. So long range reviews it, make sure it meets our general plan. Current planning reviews it to make sure it meets the zoning ordinance. There were some traffic concerns from the residents.
And all that, right?
Yeah, anyone who's driven Shea is the complaint we get. The Shea is very congested, but our traffic engineers take a look at their plan to make sure whatever's needed is provided. Water resources is a big one these days as well. So as a city, we review it from all different facets. From the neighborhood, that was some of the biggest concern is the traffic.
And that was Adam, what's the guy with the city's name? Adam somebody? Never mind, I'll ask you later.
Oh, it's fine. I'm not sure. Anyway, if you think of a refined question, happy to help answer that as well. But the zoning ordinance, this is where if you're doing some due diligence for a potential client, you're going to get a lot of response from the zoning ordinance, like what can happen and where, essentially. So it talks about the different densities of the zones. It talks about a lot of uses, minimum lot sizes, setbacks. In our Old Town area and even in our Air Park area, we talk about step backs. So as the building gets taller, it steps further back from the road, so it's not a sheer wall of glass on the roadway. Parking requirements, building height, open space. Natural area open space is unique to the environmentally sensitive lands. That's generally, here's the map of it, but again, the colors are hard to see. Generally northeast of the 101. That was revolutionary at the time when the ESL, or the Environmentally Sensitive Lands Ordinance, was reviewed and approved by council, because it shaped development to preserve our natural environment. So that's why it's so different up there than it is in South Scottsdale. And then more granular, when you get into commercial development, and I mentioned it briefly with the Development Review Board, we have our design guidelines. So in Old Town, particularly historic Old Town, we expect it to be look and feel Western. So it has some tips on how to do that. When you're doing a large cut and fill, we expect it to be sensitively done so we don't see large castles in North Scottsdale. So we have our design standards and policies manual. That goes down to the finite of how a curb should look when you're creating a new sidewalk. And then we have our sensitive design guidelines. If I could put it super simply, is we're developing in the desert, so you should be sensitive to the desert. It shouldn't look like Chicago, New York, or I know you'd be surprised how many times we have to have this conversation. And then our Old Town Urban Design Guidelines and Architectural Guidelines. That's what I pointed to here. Old Town has different neighborhoods in with itself. So there's the waterfront, there's historic Old Town, there's Main Street that has the art galleries. All of them are a little bit different, and it talks about those differences and what we would expect in those areas. Okay, getting into some of the projects. Josh shared some of those with you. I have some stats as well. This is where a lot of questions come up. What's happening where? You guys are the know-all, be-all to your clients. You're the conduit to the city. We want to help you with that. Help you find the resources you need as well. So this project is the Broadstone Papico Marketplace. This is down on Scottsdale Road in McDowell. This is an older image, but now it looks like a large apartment complex. 274 units. This is a mixed-use development now. There's supposed to be a grocer down there, and I believe a hotel user. Those aren't online yet, but the apartment complex is. This is an older strip center, Trail West. This is on Hayden, south of Osborne. I had the pleasure of working on this one, and this one was unique because it was just a facelift, except they moved. Sorry, near the very end here, but they moved the old Polynesian Dairy Queen that was on McDowell and that had some historic significance. It's not historically preserved, but the developer found interest in both sites and moved this building, disassembled it, moved it, reassembled it. There's some unique stories around that, but reinvestment in the center turned out great, I think.
That was Eleanor's, right?
Correct. This project is right by us, near the Civic Center Plaza area. It's right across the street from the library here. This is a 3-level apartment complex, and let me get you the number of units here. Oh, it's already on there. 36 dwelling units. So we've seen this in some of our mixed-use districts, like Old Town, and even up here in the Air Park area. Developers utilizing that mixed-use district to infuse some apartment complex uses. And this is Honor Health Osborne. A couple years ago, they built this 5-story medical office building. That is just over 116,000 square feet of medical office.
Beautiful, too.
Cabazon Hilton Hotel. That is 130 hotel rooms. As we're walking through these, you can kind of see the trend of what's been built over the last couple of years. We've seen a lot of apartment complexes. We've seen, to our surprise, a good amount of new hotels. I think that industry is shifting a little bit to try to, this is me speculating, to try to respond to the short-term rental trend that we've seen. This is a project way at the north side of the city, a place of worship that did a good job sensitively building into the desert environment. And Optima, McDowell Mountain Village. Optima is a big project up here.
Well,
They're,
that's all rentals though, right?
I don't know how they're going to mix, but I
They're
think
gonna mix?
I think they were through the process talking all rental. Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah. Oh.
13
That doesn't help us.
1,300 apartment units.
Yeah,
It's a
that's
big one.
brutal
What's the status
for
of that one?
us.
They, I think, are going through the plan review right now. So they've already gotten development review board approval, and they're getting their final plans approved. This is going to be a big one. It was so large that when it went through council said, we need you to find your own water. So that was a big
Wow.
deal at the time. So they had to find their own water agreement for this site.
What
This
So
is
are they gonna-
the
how are
101
they-
in
Oh, okay.
Scottsdale.
That's
Southeast
all.
corner.
Okay.
How are they gonna find their own water? They won't be going through the city, or are they hauling it?
I think it's a 3-party agreement with the city, Optima, and who they made an agreement with. I wasn't the coordinator on this one,
Interesting.
but it's in their development
So
agreement.
that cost will be passed on to those tenants.
Yeah.
So
Well,
a huge
what kind
way. If they're paying $1,000 in HOA dues, I don't think they'll notice the difference. It's I think they will if they have to pay for water too.
Yeah.
They force haul, right?
I'm not sure how the agreement looks, but
That's kind of-
just as a matter of how this one came together.
So I guess, I don't know if you can tell us, like, what the thought process is behind the city of Scottsdale approving so many apartments. Like, why? Or
Housing
is
shortage.
that being approved?
Yeah, well, our city council has that final review on if a zoning change gets approved. Some pieces are entitled for commercial projects to go to a certain height, or multifamily to be a certain height.
Can I ask a question about height thing?
Yeah.
So the height thing has changed over the years, and I understand it depends on who's in the city council and not really the mayor, but where's that stand now, and do you see that increasing?
It's hard to speculate because it is a discretionary decision by council, similar to the apartment
But you
zone
didn't get to
changes.
answer the other question.
But the Old Town Character Area Plan, after the general plan was approved in 2021, council said, we want to revise the Old Town Character Area Plan, and we want staff to go out to the citizens and ask about height, density, quality design, open space, so that we might change the character area plan to reflect the current sentiment of the general plan, but also the citizens that are involved in this process. And through that process, some of the heights came down. So it wasn't drastic, but I think if we use that as a temperature gauge, I think some of the citizens that were involved in that project at least were interested in seeing it come down. Council was interested in a more reasonable height. And it wasn't a drastic change. It was, maybe 2 or 3 stories for each level.
And does that change based on character area? Like the height restrictions might be different in the Shea corridor than they would be Old Town, or that's not a citywide,
Correct. That was for the Old Town Character Area Plan.
so it changes.
Yeah, it's different for different areas of the city. So Shea Corridor, we've seen through the process, Planning Commission and Council are more comfortable with 3 levels of height as opposed to 4 or above. But that's just us hearing a lot from those cases that go through. It still is a discretionary decision by Planning Commission and Council.
Circle back to the multifamily question about the high density housing. Is that because that there's just a dire need for housing in Scottsdale right now?
I think at a state level, we've heard a lot
Yeah.
about the housing, affordable housing issue. At the city level, the city council still makes those discretionary decisions and are trying to make sure these still kind of fit within the character of the
But
area.
like, is Class A multifamily really affordable housing?
Right,
That's what
I was just
Yeah.
gonna say that.
I mean,
Why not?
I don't think any of the Optima places are
right.
affordable.
Insane.
No,
I know that's not really a you question.
yeah, it's not a me question, but I'll tell you what we've seen.
But I guess the
with-
Airbnbs, I mean, that's what they're trying to get rid of, right? And the,
No,
No, but this
it's
is long-term,
not
that's
Right,
not
yeah.
short-term.
yeah.
Uh,
Is there-
I'll tell you what I have seen is some of the projects that have gone forward in Old Town might put aside a handful of their units to be affordable housing or workforce housing for a certain amount of time. The city, again, is not a party to that,
Right.
but that's how they're selling the project or presenting their project to council, saying we're going to do this for a matter of 5-10 years.
So are they proposing like subsidized housing, like Section 8?
Not Section 8.
Okay.
They're just saying this is how we're going to manage.
Yeah.
Affordable, I think workforce housing is actually anywhere from 80% of the median income of the area to 120% of the median income of the area. So it's not as subjective, but it's still not Section 8.
Promising part of that is that the more housing that they do build, the more supply is there, and then the demand decreases, so that then hopefully the rents will plateau or flatten out a little bit, so that they can become more affordable. If there's a housing shortage and people are working there, then it just keeps, the demand keeps outpacing the supply.
Yeah, but the numbers right now, so if you go into a starting position with the city of Scottsdale, there's no affordable housing within the city of Scottsdale. So if you got a job with true or false, and I'm not trying to beat you up. I do a lot of relocation business, so I have people that ask those questions. If you're in a starting salary with the city of Scottsdale, there's no affordable housing for you.
And the more apartments, the less house that people have to buy, and those prices are going to go up. And so it's like it's making it even harder for people to be able to buy.
I know Solange is big on that, Hootie's
The
big
goal
on that.
is to increase housing to try and keep the supply up so that the demand will flatten out, so that we don't keep having these massive increases.
It's a big deal with the people running for city, like Jacob Oscus is big on the whole.
I imagine it'll be on their political platform
Yeah,
as
something
we
like
get
this.
closer to
Yeah.
November. To answer your question directly, there are some affordable housing units in Scottsdale. They're almost 99% filled
Yeah.
for 99% of the time.
Well, and so I interviewed, what's his face, Rob Millar.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Our
on my
former economic
yeah,
development
on my
director.
podcast, and we were talking about that, and we were talking about teacher salaries, for example, right? You mean teachers in your city, and firefighters, like they don't all EMTs, they don't all exactly make a ton of money. So where are they going to live? And so there's a lot of discussion around it. I'm sure if you attend city council meetings, you hear some of that. But about like you can build housing on school properties, things like, I mean, there's talk out there. It's not just, the only solution is just like build it and they will come. It's like there is, some forethought going into it, as I'm sure you know, in a long-term plan.
So building on school districts?
I'm not saying that that's what they're doing.
Oh, I was like, that's kind of cool.
I'm just saying that it's
Although I don't know if I want to be next to my.
it's
Yeah.
available.
The bell only rings once an hour.
Yeah.
We have seen, to that note, we have seen a lot of churches that have excess property considering doing some type of multifamily, and some of them even using their ministry to say we're going to serve this demographic. None of those have
Then
come
do
to
they
fruition
need a
yet.
rezone on that particular, or like some kind of exception on that particular? Okay,
Typically,
that's
yeah.
what I thought,
Mhm.
So
Because
that's
it would
special
be
use permit, something like that, okay.
Glassing Gardens doing that, Granite Reef and McDonald.
Okay.
My understanding.
Parcel in that way?
It would depend on how many parcels and APMs they have and what the city approves of.
So I think you already keyed in on one of the big issues. It's multifamily, it's rental units.
I personally love multifamily, but that's just me.
But we hear it at the state level. I'm sure we're going to hear it as we get closer to November. And there are a couple opinions on it. I'm just showing you what's been approved. So
We appreciate it.
I can try to give you other examples, but I can't give you much of my opinion. Yeah.
Going to bulletproof mass presentation.
Yeah, no.
When it comes down to it, it really is market driven, and
Yeah.
if someone
Very much
pays
that.
X amount for a piece of property, they've got to try and maximize that. And often that does mean Class AA.
Right. And the only solution would be to tell people to stop moving to Scottsdale, and that's not gonna happen, especially if you have a robust economy there, so, yeah.
But then you get into, okay, let's build another level, instead of 3, let's build 4, and then it becomes a big circle of,
But there's
what's the
city,
right word I can
there's
use
city
without
codes
offending
and zones that
everybody?
already prevent that from happening.
Pardon me?
There's city codes and
Yeah,
zones
they
that already
can't build over
prevent the
it.
next
No,
level.
I understand, but
Yeah.
one of the solutions is to build higher.
Of course they want that, because that's the builder that can like put more
Yeah,
units on it
yeah.
and then sell
More
it as
money
a
in the
performing asset. That just makes sense.
This is a big one, like Josh already mentioned, that MAC Innovation Phase 1 got approved by the Development Review Board. So we'll see how fast they move through actually building it. But that was unique because DC Ranch and all these folks were like, wait, what? What do you mean that's happening here? So we had a lot of input from the community up there. It had been zoned industrial ever since I think the beginning. It'd been industrial.
Yeah.
So
Nice crowd.
yeah,
Right.
Mac who did this, it is right next to their park right here. So right along 101, that was a lot of their presentation. Like this will work because we're going to jump right on the 101 with a lot of our shipping and handling, and it's going to benefit the city.
Ben, can I add a comment on that, and you can expand on it? Scottsdale's unique, and we have no heavy industrial zoning at all. So when we say industrial zoning, it's just light industrial, so no dirty chemicals or
No
anything like that.
smokestacks, yeah.
Yeah. So no heavy industrial, which is great.
Is there any, like, worries about the 101 even being able to handle that?
That was part of the conversation. A lot of the neighbors were saying this interchange right here getting off onto Pima is already congested. ADOT is working on
I was just
expanding it
gonna
right
say,
now,
there's-
so yeah.
Okay, so when I heard you guys were having this, I had one big, huge question. I was a little late, so if you guys have touched on it.
We'll start over. Go ahead.
No, and I'm not beating you guys up. I've been in Scottsdale since '86. I love Scottsdale. I think the city's done a great job growing. I'm a big fan. I am on the PETA list, the pain in the ass list for Scottsdale. The
And
10
everyone else.
the 101 construction. What a disaster. I mean, who's responsible for that? How do we change that? How many people are going to die on the 101 like the kid last weekend? I mean, the way they did that construction thing is, I mean, you guys got to be getting just hammered.
Yeah, we actually don't manage that at all.
Right, that
That's
would be
the Arizona
ADOT.
Department of
That's what I had.
Transportation.
Okay,
Yeah.
It's ADOT.
That's
Comment
a mess.
heard though.
That's a mess.
That's what you were done for ADOT, to be on your PETA.
I'll call them
Yeah.
next.
Get off to what else is
I love those questions, not me. Okay. This,
Good deflection.
yeah, thank you.
Good job.
The Princess, one of our largest employers, is expanding. They have a couple of things that they're doing on the site. Most notably, they're doing a new conference center building and event pad in between. So that's roughly 30,000 additional space of conference space. So they're even, I think up here is where they have their Winter Wonderland carousel and stuff. They're planning ahead to make that portion of the parking lot for that event to continue on. But one of our biggest employers, one of our biggest hotels, continues to reinvest. This is aerial of the park that Josh mentioned. This is the old Cracker Jack site. They do have some zoning approval. I don't know if it's been all the way through Development Review Board yet. But this is a large project with multifamily hotel. Let me find some of those numbers for you. But they've been working at this site for a number of years, a couple different iterations. This would have just over 1,200 dwelling units, 223 hotel keys, and then 253,000 square feet of commercial floor area. So this would be one of those mixed-use projects similar to what we see at One Scottsdale and Kierland, which is in Phoenix, but this would be that mixed-use.
Great project, and a great piece of property.
yeah, hopefully it all turns out as planned. There's some renderings of that. Artesia, this is a large piece of property that is yet to be developed in the middle of the greater project, but this would be 500 dwelling units just north of Indian Bend on Scottsdale Road. There's the rendering of that one. Another apartment complex at Scottsdale and Gold Dust. This one, when it went through the process, DRB, Planning Commission, and Council all said we don't want to see anything over 4 stories. So they actually chopped that 4-story off and lowered the unit count to 215 units.
So they initially asked for 4.
They asked for 4 and more units, but through the process, they said no, that doesn't fit the neighborhood. It needs to be 3. Caesar's Hotel just opened. Had the pleasure of taking a tour of that. It's very new and shiny. I recommend go checking it out yourself. But that's 265 room keys. And to my speculation, I think hotels are responding to the short-term rental industry because there are a lot of suites that feel like an apartment unit. They'll have a kitchenette, they'll have multiple rooms. Obviously those, we got to see the fancy presidential suites. I'm sure they have some standard hotel rooms too, but I think a lot of hotels are trying to give families that feel that we could have a little anonymity within this site. Hazel and Azure, this is just north of Camelback on Scottsdale Road. We've seen a couple iterations of this, but this is a mixed-use development with, which is some numbers for you, 532 residential units and 14,000 square feet of commercial floor area, primarily along Scottsdale Road there. And right across the street is that Apple store and Scottsdale Fashion Square. And the Maya Hotel, this is in our entertainment district, right across the street from the W. This should be coming online fairly soon. They're racing Caesars to finish. I think Caesars beat them, but they're short behind. The Kimsey, this is a unique project right on Indian School because behind this rendering of trees is a historic building. So through this process, the city encouraged them to preserve this historic building and move some of the density to the back of the project. The large building in the rear is a hotel. They just pulled permits on that and they're digging the underground parking right now to build the hotel above it. And they're still waiting on purchasing the permit for their apartment. Osborne Residential Healthcare. This is on Osborne and Scottsdale. These are minimal care units for, I think, primarily the elderly. If I could see any sort of trend, I think we all saw apartments come online, and then at the city, everyone was moving into these apartments and needed storage. So then we saw a bunch of storage facilities right next to apartments. Now I think as a lot of the apartments are being built, coming online, maybe that supply and demand is maybe evening out a little bit. I think we're seeing a lot more residential healthcare facilities because we still do have a community that is a great community to retire in, and we do have a lot of retirees that need a little extra help. And then if you haven't been, Civic Center Plaza just did a huge revamp, and now we're getting new events back in there. Even without an event, I recommend go check it out if you haven't been in Old Town in a while, because you might see it with new eyes. It's really fresh.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Great for family
Really
pictures.
Yeah.
Great just for a picnic.
It's on here.
It turned out really well. Okay, and we want to help yourselves. Like I said, the website is a great resource. That's scottsdaleaz.gov. A couple keyword searches that I help folks at the front counter search themselves quite frequently is development projects. So you could search what's going on in more of a list format, or you could search maps and it'll bring up our map center, and you could search more visually what's happening on this corner. My neighborhood will have little pins on if there's a case there. You can click on that and you could even get to what they submitted. So you could review some of these yourself. Also, for folks moving to the neighborhood, everyone's curious about crime. We do have a very safe community, but this will show you kind of what's happening in the neighborhood as well. So it's all at your fingertips. Also, happy to answer any questions you might have. Any questions that kind of stirred up during that conversation, Josh and I are happy to try to answer
No
for you.
master plan communities anywhere?
Oh, any new master plans with custom homes?
Anything?
Yeah, I mean, it's so infill, though.
Yeah, I know.
Which is why they need high density housing.
Yeah, those aren't as popular of a question, but good question. A lot of those are up near
I
Dynamite
was
and
gonna say, I
118.
didn't see that some are supposed to be coming up.
I mean, they're going through the process to get approved,
Yeah.
but water is an issue up there as well. So
Yeah.
there needs to be a large water line and sewer line installed. And a lot of those, I think, are waiting on whoever pulls the trigger first.
Okay.
So I do a lot of relocation business from the Midwest, Chicago, and I would say 3 out of my last 5 clients have tried to put together weddings and different. Is there any request for like banquet hall type facilities, or do you hear anything about that?
We do have a lot of venues already in town. Tourism events may have facilitated some of those requests that come through the city, but there's a couple venues in Old Town. The stadium has a new conference center, a pretty unique experience if
The new one at
you
the
rent.
Princess Conference Center.
And the Princess Conference Center.
Most of the hotels have that.
Yeah, it's more of an offshoot. It's just the cost on all those is
Right. Yeah, I know Scottsdale Stadium is available. I don't know what the cost is compared to a hotel.
Well, even if they built a banquet hall, the cost would be outrageous
Yeah.
because it's selling at $1 million an acre. Like,
Yeah.
that's
That
insane.
makes sense.
Yeah.
The
no,
venues out there.
seriously, they are.
Yeah.
No, we have to go to Mesa, we have to go to.
And they're
Yeah.
pretty good mountain stuff.
Right.
I mean,
Oh,
that's just
stop
pretty
it.
nice. There's mountains, and, I mean, you know, you
Yeah.
get the same feel.
There's a lot of beautiful churches as well in
Yeah.
Scottsdale. But yeah, I hear you. I can't think of any one new venue that's being proposed, other than a lot of our hotels are reinvesting.
That project where they moved the Dairy Queen thing was amazing. It's
Yeah.
now Eleanor's.
Yeah.
It was amazing what they did with that.
I had the pleasure of coordinating that one, and that was a fun one.
There used to be a great fish place in that little strip years and years ago.
It was a great
the worst,
donut shop.
greasiest fish you've ever eaten, but it was so good.
We did bring some goodies for you guys too. There's some Choose Scottsdale flip-flops and stickers if you want those for you and your clients.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You're fine.
Actually, I have another question.
Yeah.
Where it says that one big building was rated like 60% occupancy before they start building.
Guys, on?
Yeah.
So when you're